I'm Alexis, and this is the Whatcha Watchin podcast. Today, I'm really excited because we're talking about a movie that I have not been able to stop thinking about since I saw it. It's disgusting, it's disturbing, it's hilarious, it's The Substance. And joining me to talk about this movie is one of my favorite movie TikTokers. She's an actress, she's a filmmaker, she's a podcaster, she's the co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza. Welcome back to the pod, Katie from MovieRuntime. Katie, thank you so much for being back.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me to talk about a movie that I feel so passionately about.
Yes, totally. This is one where it's like everybody that I know that loved this movie, it's like you see it and it's like it's disturbing and fucked up, but you're also like, okay, I really want to see that again because I need to just wrap my head around this further, you know? It's like you really ruminate on this movie for a while after watching it.
If they had done the thing on roller coasters where they take your photo while you're on the roller coaster for this movie, you would have gotten like, it was a mixture between my mouth was completely open and then like tears are pouring down my face. Like it was a hot mess. Everything like, don't wear makeup to this. Ironically, do not wear makeup to this movie.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah. I was very like, I was squirming and laughing, but also like repulsed and just, it was such an experience. And I it's one of those movies where, you know, you can see this in like an Alamo, but I cannot imagine eating food while watching this movie. It's like, this is one where like I saw it at an Alamo at my screening, but thankfully like I had very much finished my food before the body horror madness started. But I would imagine people, this is a stomach churning sort of experience.
I don't often get popcorn, but I was like, we're going to do big on this movie. Let's get popcorn. And I went with my husband, and there was this, you know, like we hold it in between the two of us, a distinct moment when I remember one of the two, I think it was him, just taking the popcorn and being like, oh, we'll put it on the floor now. Yeah. I don't really want to smell it.
Won't be needing this anymore.
So, get this on the way out and give it to the chickens when we get home, because
For real. Yeah, I think like at this point, this movie's been out for a bit. You've probably seen memes about it. You've probably seen, you know, posts on social media about it. You've probably heard your friends talking about it. So we are going to get into spoilers in this discussion because I feel like we need to. This is one where we got to get into the nuance. We got to get into the details.
That's part of why we waited so long.
Exactly. It's like we gave it enough time. You've had a fair warning. You've had a chance to see it already. If you haven't, you should because it's awesome. You know?
And it's on VOD now too, so you can be at home, take your breaks.
Exactly. You can get up, maybe take like a lap around your living room to sort of get some air if you need to, and then dive right back into it.
I'm just remembering, I actually had to go twice to see this movie. Did I tell you about the first time I tried to see this movie?
No.
So I went on the Cinemark Wednesday preview day. So it doesn't actually come out until a Thursday. This was a like, surprise, one showing, 7 p.m., come see it. I bought my ticket. And when I bought my ticket, I was the only person who had bought yet. So I bought one seat for myself. My husband couldn't come. I show up and there's one person in the theater already, and they have picked the seat next to the seat that I have picked.
Why are people like this?
And it is a young man who in his Nora Ephron meet cute mind thought this would be the risk that he would take to maybe for The Substance, sir.
Yeah, I feel like this is not a meet cute. This is not a date movie. And I mean, if it is a date movie for you, honestly, like go on another date with that person, because this is one that I think would be like, I would be surprised if there are like successful like first dates. Let's go check out The Substance together.
Maybe if you met in film club as friends and now you're. Yeah. So I don't sit in the row with him because I'm like, fuck that, I'm going rogue. And I sit in a completely different row in front of him. The projector broke.
Oh, God.
So watch all of the previews. It goes to start the movie and the movie doesn't start. They come in, they start to apologize to us. They tell us that it's going to be close to an hour and we're welcome to wait in the theater if we want. And I can feel the guy behind me who keeps trying to talk to me about his Letterboxd and how he's logging on Letterboxd. And I just literally looked at the attendant and I went, can I get a refund? And she went, of course. And like a cloud-shaped me remained as I ran out of that.
Like Looney Tunes style, where you just like, you were gone.
No, I don't care what kind of punked version, like a performance art thing this is. I'm not seeing substance like
Yeah.
this.
Like, I'm not participating in this. Whatever like thing I've been involuntarily thrust into, no thank you.
Thank you. I'm not signing the waiver at the end anyway. A good night.
It's been really interesting, the responses to this between like men and women. You know, I feel like I have a lot of male friends who have really enjoyed this movie and really love it. But it is interesting what they sort of zone in on here versus I think what we do.
It's so controversial and so brave of Randy Quaid to be willing to be filmed in a slightly ugly way.
Yeah, I find it's so funny. Like, there was a few text messages from different friends after I saw this, and then they would go see it, and they were immediately like, you know, I mean, not to be like a dude or whatever, but Randy Quaid really did an amazing job here. I'm like, he did, but that is not really the point of this film.
They practically made his character one-dimensional and evil. And you're like, he did a lot. You know, the script wasn't really written. I had someone say to me, you know, the script wasn't really written to highlight his character. And yet he still stood out. And I was like, I will smack the taste out of your mouth.
It's like, yeah, well, I mean, I'm glad that you're praising his performance. It's a good performance, but I feel like we're maybe missing the point just a tad here.
Yeah.
Wild.
Take me to dinner first. Talk to me about the other actresses, and then we'll get to to Dennis.
It's so true. It's like, I feel like, to me too, if we're talking about brave performances here, Demi Moore, tremendous. Like, absolutely tremendous. There's vulnerability, there's comedy, there's like desperation. I mean, she's giving us so many things in here. First of all, it's great to see her again. And it's great to see her again in something like this, which is like sort of a commentary on being an actress who's getting older, but also so like sort of cheeky and edgy and fun, but disturbing and sad and emotional. I mean, she is giving us a full range here of everything we need from this film. And I was blown away.
And the tempo in the changes for those acting paces are the tempo that you would expect from a horror movie. So when we're talking about like, you're going to go from full repulsion to scared to deeply moved and sad to laughing, and it's like beats of maybe 10 or 15 seconds. And what is so amazing for me is that she's doing this through a lot of prosthetics as well. So she's getting, and they're very close, they're very in her face, and yet she's still succeeding. And the whole movie did that Lord of the Rings thing where they've done the combination of VFX practical, where everything that you're seeing is a practical human effect that you could touch, and they've VFXed like the edges around the eye. Or this is something that I heard on an interview that I thought was phenomenally insane. So the scene where at the end where she's quite old and very frail and she's very, very thin, they found a body double who looked exactly like Demi Moore except like 100 pounds lighter. And so that's actually her when they're standing up. But there are certain scenes when she's like banging on the door and she's telling the boyfriend to go away. That is still Demi Moore in with the effects makeup. So they VFXed parts of the body double onto Demi Moore. So they're VFXing actual physical practical effects onto another actor. So it's a really interesting way to use VFX in my mind and still keep it very practical.
Yeah, it's such a perfect example when you have VFX that really work for the sort of narrative like importance. I think that's we really have that here where I think I think I wrote something about this in my review where even when you get into the really, really disgusting, like gross, oozy, like when she's full monster toward the end, it's so artistic and you really appreciate like the paint and the detail and all the things to make it sort of gooey and squishy. And you really you get a sense of that artistry in something so disgusting and so repulsive, but yet it's so beautiful at the same time because it's like you can see a person has crafted this, you know? And I think that was something that I just really appreciated it. I think that stopped it for me from being full, like, disgusting. Like at no point was I like nauseated by it. I was kind of like, wow, that's so beautiful. Someone painted that. And it's like, it's horrible. but I found it like weirdly gorgeous at the same time.
Oh, well, when I went to buy when I went to go to see it the second time, as I'm having my ticket stub pulled, the woman behind the counter goes, "Just so you know, we've had 20 people walk out today already." And I was like, "Whoa, good." And she's like, "Oh, you're one of those people. You're going to love it." So
Totally.
twisted. But what you said is exactly how VFX god, special effects god Tom Savini got through going to war. He had to serve, I think it was Vietnam. And so he would take looking at these horrific things and just tell himself, wow, this is really beautiful, the way that this can be reconstructed. So that is often when I'm watching a film like this, I remind myself, like, damn it, everybody, just way to go, team. Way to go, team.
So true. Yeah, it's very like you sort of celebrate every single aspect of this. Hair and makeup, the set design is amazing. It's beautifully shot, it's beautifully lit. It's like every piece of the filmmaking comes together in this to really give this story such a huge impact. And also it's a fun movie. Like I know that seems messed up when it's something that's like it's somewhat heavy subject matter, but it does it in such a way that is so tremendously unsubtle that it becomes hilarious. And I just loved that. I think the when she's full monster at the end and she sort of sticks the picture of Demi Moore's face like on her, or when she's got the curling iron and she's curling the like one little wisp of hair and puts the earring on, like it's so awful that it's hilarious, because it's like the film clearly understands, like, okay, we're not only taking this to 11, we're taking this to like 15. And I think it works so well in being like incredibly fucked up, but in a truly hilarious way.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where it walks a line that can get kind of dangerous, because I think for women, we experience that and then we walk away and we still know that, like, just before we had that scene with the Gollum, that character is called Gollum on the call sheet because it's a composite of a couple of different things, puts this, the earring into her ear on her head. We had a very similarly shot scene where she's just trying to get out to the dinner date with the guy from high school. Yes. And every woman has had that happen to them. And so like that scene, you're crying. This scene shot the same, you're laughing, but you're remembering crying, but you're also remembering having actually experienced this. And so there's this like 5 wolves inside you that are fighting while you watch this movie. And I turned to my husband and I feel like he was just laughing. He was just experiencing the narrative. And that was great for him. And he obviously understood what the story was about, because it doesn't let you not know. But so it's maximalist as opposed to a minimalist style or Baroque. And some people find that nauseating in art. There's just too much going on. They don't know where to look. So to bother to do that in a way that's like, look here, this is what we're doing, it feels like it needed to be that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's that scene to me where she's trying to sort of psych herself up to go on this date. Amazing. I mean, that's to me like the sort of central thesis of this whole thing is kind of just in that scene. What a performance from Demi Moore, first of all, like moving, incredible, heartbreaking. And like you said, it's so relatable because it's this whole thing of like, the guy she's going to go on the date with has already said he thinks she's the most beautiful person in the world. But if you can't think that about yourself, you're fucked, like you can't, it's so difficult to get over that. And I think it's just such a beautifully heartbreaking scene where we as an audience see her, she looks beautiful. We're like, no, she looks beautiful. She should, head on out the door and go to this date. It's going to be lovely. And just watching her constantly, no, I need to tweak this. No, I need to fix this, to the point where it just all breaks down, is just so like just carries such an impact. And it really is such a crucial scene. And then to have that in the same movie where you have this sort of like off the wall, like absolutely bonkers body horror, her fighting herself kind of thing. I mean, it's like, here's where you get the message in sort of a slightly more subtle way. And then here it's like, we're going to beat you over the head with this because you might have missed this, you know?
Just in case. It really made me think about this book called it's the Il Monstro di Firenze. It's about the serial killer that Hannibal Lecter is based on. And they're talking about the concept of like true madness and how a lot of times people think that madness is acting out of rage and it's like a screaming action, and madness is actually the like step beyond that, where you've been screaming so loud for so long that you just stop because you know that even if they can hear you, they clearly don't care anymore. And that, I feel like the writer-director was coming at us from a like, don't think that I am trying to say this is a dystopian future or this is an hyperbolic version of our world. This is exactly how I live.
Yes.
Every woman enters a room that is a public space and all we look at are butts and boobs and the way that we value ourselves because you did this to us.
Totally. Yes, completely. It's like, it's this struggle between sort of society makes you this way, and then the calls are coming from inside the house. So it's like, it's just this whole loop of like, oh no, I have to be validated externally, but also I've had to be validated externally for so long that now I don't have the internal validation either. So it's just this weird, like, empty loop where you're constantly like, I need to be pretty for the whole world, but then I don't feel pretty, but like, it's, oh man, it's such a mess and such a mindfuck, and it's such a wonderful representation of that feeling.
Oh my
God,
it's
amazing.
And to have someone like have it be an actress, where like I was listening to TikTok earlier today where somebody was saying, imagine a field where everybody gets selected. They have to apply for a job by bringing in their headshot, and then they pick the most pretty person, and then they pick the most talented person from pretty people, but pretty is the first qualification. And those are your doctors who are going to operate on you today. Wouldn't feel that great about it, right? But that's how we pick everybody in Hollywood. So to have an actor, all actors know inherently your value is your look. Like that, the scene that broke me the hardest is when she's there with Sue, Margaret Qualley, and she has decided to let her die. And then she reneges on it, and she's shaking on her, and she's saying, oh my God, if you die, there's nothing left for anyone to like. Like to have externalized your values so outside of yourself that it could die and you could live on.
Tremendous. Yeah. That's absolutely incredible. This sort of thing where she, like, Sue is killing her, but she also cannot live without Sue because Sue is the only thing she feels comfortable presenting to the outside world.
And it's so strange to like, can you imagine being the casting department and having to approach Demi Moore and say, we want you to play this actress who's like old now, and we're so like, it's such a hard thing to even ask someone to do. So to have her come in and do such an amazing job and fucking kill it is like, good on you for not getting tripped up on the whole concept before you even stepped into the role.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we want to talk about brave performances, I mean, this is the brave performance really of like coming in as an older actress that we did know when she was younger and all these things, and coming in and making such a strong commentary on that through your performance. And it's you know, we always hear with women like, she's not afraid to be ugly. I remember with Charlize Theron, we heard that so much during Monster, where it was like, you guys, Charlize Theron, this is an amazing performance because it's okay, she's okay with being ugly in this film. And it's like, okay, but like, you know, like you don't get an award just because you like wore a prosthetic nose or like you didn't have eyeliner on that time, you know, you have to bring something to it as well. And I think with this, it's like to be not afraid to be ugly, which is the praise for women. It's like, what if you're not afraid to be like full horrifying? And Demi Moore is not afraid of that here.
It's so truthful. And that's what I think is conflicting for a lot of people, is that like, it's not amplified horror. It's true horror. It's true violence. And it feels almost Terry Gilliam level of like absurdist by the time we get to the end. So you could almost want to step back and be like, I don't know about this crazy French film, but like we're all kind of living this crazy French film.
Totally. Yeah, I saw something interesting on social. People were talking about kind of the does this movie criticize the male gaze while also just giving in to the male gaze, which I think there's a couple times in the sort of pump it up sequences where I'm like, we get it. Like, you know, it's her butt and her boobs. We get it. You know, it's a little bit of like, all right, we may be leaning into this a little too hard. But then I feel like it kind of loops back around. And at the end, when she basically like coughs up a boob, like, I feel like it's literally just like, yeah, here's your symbol. Here's your sexualized thing. What do you think about it now? You know, I loved that in a way because it's like, to me, it's sort of the inverse of the previous scene in a way where I'm wondering to like, the sort of men that are watching this and that are like, damn, dude, Margaret Qualley's so hot. Like, I know that's not what I'm supposed to be taking away from here, but she's so hot. And then it's like, okay, how about now? You know? So I love that. Yeah. Like I love that like aggressiveness of challenging that.
Oh yeah. And setting a context, being like, you said you wanted boobs. Is boob okay? Yeah. No, this boob's
Here's
not
one.
okay. Okay.
This
okay,
one's
what about
gross
this
to you?
boob? No? Oh, okay. I'm curious. All right. I also think that this film could be looked at a little bit differently if people frame it, because not only am I a woman, I am chronically ill. And I feel like there's an ableist side of this, because to have value as an actor, you have to be able to work. And to be able to work, you have to be pretty. And to be able to work, you have to have a body that is capable of working. And I'm at a point in my life, like I'm older, I'm getting to 40 next year, and parts of my body are going. I'm getting sick. And some days I wake up and I'm like 25. I can do whatever the hell I want. And other days I wake up and my leg won't even move and I have to use a cane to get around the house. And I feel like there are two versions of me. And the version of me that uses a cane will get mad at the version of me that spent all yesterday gallivanting around because she felt fine. And today I'm paying for what she did yesterday. And so as that shifted back and forth, and it's not always a day, sometimes it's half a day, sometimes it's a week, I felt myself being like, oh God, I'm not sure I want to be seen this much.
Yeah. I think the movie really does, like, you know, it's basically just like this society values youth and beauty above all things. And like, that's so awful. Basically, the movie is just like, isn't that awful? Isn't that fucked up? But then it's also like, we're sort of locked in this. There's like no way to fix it. It just, that sort of just is what it is. And it sucks. And we all know it sucks. And we all know those are not the things that are valuable about people, but we're just sort of stuck here. And this is just what society is. And I love that because, like, you know, like with chronic illness or with, you know, with eating disorders, with addiction, with all these things, it's like, this is such, like when you said, I don't know if I want to feel that scene. I think this is so that way for so many people. This movie works to connect with so many people on a level where it's like, oh my God, that's me. Like, oh my God, this feels like how I feel. And it's so, it's like, it's disturbing and it's sort of unsettling, but it's also really validating. And that, oh wow, clearly other people feel this way too. But also, like, I don't want to talk about how I feel this way. You know? So no. It's like, it's weird. It's unsettling, but also comforting in a way.
Well, to do that is to admit that you're the monster. You're the thing that's killing you. You're the thing. Society made you this way, but you're still the monster. And like, it's to admit that there's a monster in all of us. It's just a matter of kind or degree, not who is good and who is bad. We're all fucked this way. And in that way, that's what body horror is kind of saying. Like, we will all die. We will all get old. We will all be wrinkly and fucked up, and you cannot escape it. And that's why a lot of people, I think, don't like body horrors, because they don't want to think or look at this kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, what if the horror is you? What if the horror is your own body, your own aging, your own inevitable demise? And that's like, I feel like that's like on another level of like, you know, things to be scared of in terms of, we all age, we all, you know, deteriorate, and having to look that in the face can be way more shocking than, you know, oh, here's a guy with a knife or here's a ghost or something. You know, it's like, no, like, what if you were just getting older and society was telling you have no value anymore? It's like, oh shit, that's a real thing that happens.
I almost feel like it needs to end on that level of hyperbolic comedy to make the message like receivable. Otherwise, we end on a like, and it comes for you and you die. And
Yeah,
it sucks.
true.
And it's terrible.
Yeah.
But like, I'm a little hoe and it's
Yeah.
big and it's gross and it's funny and it's body horror. And then you can kind of be like,
Absolutely.
oh, okay. But going to why I think there are so much male gaze is I think we might be confusing male gaze with commercialism. Because when you go back to when we shifted as a society from valuing age, wisdom, all of that stuff to youth and beauty, it's the 1960s Mad Men ad culture that starts to tell us. And it's because young people have money. They have the most money to spend. And now that you're old, you can spend your money on being young. And so for me, I do have to admit, they could have cut down some of those workout scenes, but it's a long movie. So if you need to know when to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom during one of the workout scenes. It's fine. But like, it did feel like, okay, yeah, this is commercialism. And I heard the director, for what it's worth, say in an interview, the buts were because she wanted to show how in a public space, the female form cannot be non-gendered. Everybody stares at your butt.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's a very valid sort of perspective on it. I think like in a way it's like everything with this movie goes so over the top that it's very where you're like, this is clearly, there's a point to this, there's a meaning to this, I think tying it with this sort of commercialism, it's so valid. I think like when you mentioned like, we used to value wisdom, we used to value that type of thing, and then it did just switch over. And I think too now, I mean, I don't know if you've experienced this, but it's been really interesting. I remember when our generation was younger, everything was like millennials. We're trying to market to millennials. And now it's like Gen Z. And you just sort of feel like, oh my God, are we so old that we're not like the demographic anymore? Like no one gives a shit about marketing to us. We're just like old people now. And there's like a definitive moment where that starts to happen to you. And then you realize like, oh, I'm not in the coveted 18 to 34 demo. And it's like, oh God, that's that shocking moment of like, even marketing, even commercialism, even just trying to get you to buy a product, that's not even really for you anymore either.
Yeah, where it's like, wow, it's 18 to 38, and then it's 39 to 42.
Totally.
They get so small, the windows, but the first one's like, young people. And once you get out of that 18 to whatever bracket, you're like, I'll just, okay.
And couple that with the fact that our generation has like no money anyway. Marketing is like, it's not for you. We're marketing to like boomers and Gen Z. We don't give a shit about like Gen X or millennials. You guys don't have any money, whatever, it doesn't matter.
It's either life alert or do you need shoes for your dog?
Yeah. I do love how all the men in here are basically repulsive. Like, I think that's really fascinating. I sort of thought back to it and I was like, okay, aside from just, Dennis Quaid and the horrible scene where he's eating the crawfish or whatever, I feel like every man in here is just presented as just disgusting, just like purely repulsive in a way that is really fascinating.
And very, very old, so old. Everybody is so white-haired, silvered. And it's funny because my husband and I have a reoccurring joke because as a working actress, the scene where they say to her, that woman comes in and they're like, oh, her body on the last girl's head, and her nose was a little like, I've had that shit said directly to my face. And then like, I have stuff that would be as good as like, oh, you're too Asian looking. I'm only a quarter Asian. Yeah, you look full. Next. And you're just like, ha, ha, ha. Like, it's so fucking real. So my husband and I have this joke where we'll be watching a movie and like a young Dan Hedaya will show up on screen. And I'll be like, no woman has ever been allowed to be that sweaty, that fat, and that unattractive on film. And yet here we go, main character.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. Like, I think especially now as we get into like workplace sensitivity training and these different things, and you think about like we have this entire industry where you're allowed to be like, nah, your face is wrong, I don't like it. And it's like,
Yeah.
how is this like it's sort of just insulated from having to like have empathy or to, look inside. It's like, it's not about looking inside. It's about like, here's the feedback. Like, you need to lose 30 pounds. Here's the feedback. Like, get your boobs done. Here's the feedback. Get your nose fixed, And it's like, these are just things that you can just say in that industry versus any other world where like that would be completely not allowed and perhaps illegal in many places.
Oh, imagine being told something you can't even control as well. I did auditions for America's Next Top Model and made it 5 rounds in. And this was the year they were accepting models under 5'7", because I'm 5'6". 5'6" on the nose. And I got 5 rounds in. I've been there for 7 fucking hours. I get up to the front guy and he goes, we're really only looking for 5'6.5" is our minimum on here. Yeah. I was like, and he's like, yeah, next. I didn't even get spoken to at that point. I had done so much already. So like, I can't get any taller. This is it, guys.
It's that's so bizarre. Like that this is a thing that's fine. And I mean, it's really is like, well, there's certain heights, there's certain this, there's certain that. It's like, well, I don't think like, I mean, they used to be like, oh, it's sample sizes or it's whatever. But now it's like, okay, but then also if you have some like, famous Instagram model, then they can be a model and they can be whatever. Now there's so much of a, create your built-in audience and then bring that to our thing so we don't have to actually do the marketing on it.
Do our work for us for free. And we're talking about half of an inch. That's like, I don't care if you fit the clothes. I don't care if people like you. I don't care if you're good at anything. Go.
Yeah. Like come on now.
Oh, okay.
It's just, it feels like such a meat market gross like situation so much of the time. And then you want to be like, especially things with like, with acting where you're like, well, can you act? That's not important. Can you sing? That's not important. Can you do the thing that like requires the talent? Not important. We just need to know, do you look hot? Are you going to be desirable to people? And it's like, there's so much more to it. And I feel like with men, of course, that's like never, it's like, no, you can be a talented man. I remember the whole, the rodent boy summer thing where everyone was like, yes, guys who look like hot rodents. I'm like, when have you ever heard that for women? When has it ever been, we have, dad bods are sexy. Are mom bods sexy? No. Hot rodent boy. Is there ever hot rodent girl summer? Like, it's
Butterface
so wild.
spring? Like, no. Exactly. This is absurd.
It's so true. It's like the rules just are so different, and they continue to be so different no matter how much we acknowledge, hey, we should change this, or hey, it should be this. And there might be like small little niche areas where it's like, no, we really want to do like inclusive stuff or whatever. But it's like, by and large, like society in general is so much based on how you look. I mean, I was like, I'm going to put on lipstick to do this. Like, there you go. It's like, there's shit you got to do. When, I mean, you and I both make TikTok videos and we're like, let me figure out my lighting. Let me figure out whatever. And it's like, these are all things you have to think about when you're constantly making stuff where you put yourself out there. And I think too, we've had so many years of having to stare at ourselves, with Teams calls and Zoom calls and these different things. I feel like everyone is hyper aware of what they look like in a way where maybe 20 years ago, you just, you might like have a little digital camera and take a picture, but now it's like the selfie cam on your phone is the most important camera, and like taking a picture and face tuning and these different things. It's like suddenly there's like an entire world built around presenting yourself on the internet that like did not exist 20 years ago in a way that I think just further perpetuates all of this.
Oh my God. They'll sell you stuff to put like lip gloss for your teeth. So your teeth are extra shiny. They can't even just be white anymore. They need to be shiny. Like they'll get you coming and going. It's amazing what they'll convince you. And as soon as you hit a certain age bracket, then they come for your 2 ways to Tuesday. And then you get ads for stuff you didn't even know you should be insecure about yet.
Oh, for real. That algorithm says like, hey, do you hate the way like your arms look? And you're like, damn, I guess I do hate the way my arms look. you know,
And
like
they got a
every
picture
little
of you
thing.
from behind. You're like, ah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like, here are the horrors of your own human body. But with this product, you could change it. And that's what we get now. As aging millennials, we get the like, are you old and you want to not be old? None of the like fun, cool ads we used to get. Now it's just basically like, oh, hello, old crone. Would you like to be younger and more beautiful?
You will often find me on makeup videos screaming about how people will like draw in eye bags. And I'm
And it's
like,
like,
you son of a bitch, kids!
my culture is not your costume.
Appropriation! Yes, my God. Oh my God. Play video games till 4 a.m. like the rest of us.
Yeah, exactly. Be constantly stressed out and constantly like, short on sleep. And like, that's how you have to live to be able to get those. Obtain them authentically, please.
Please. Which is funny because so you've got young people drawing bags on under their eyes, and you've got us buying stuff to get the bags off of our eyes. And I can't help but feel like star-bellied sneeches.
Yeah.
Where like
Oh,
whatever you have,
completely.
they convince you don't need.
Yep. Absolutely. It's like no one is happy with how they are because that's not how money is made. You have to make people unhappy. That's the only way to perpetuate things.
Oh, so many videos I get are about how my hair might secretly be curly. Like, I know that. It's impossible to keep curly hair. Stop coming at me. It's like $1,000 a month. Let me flat iron it. That's what I learned in the aughts.
Yeah, for real. It's like every person I know who has curly hair wishes they had straight hair. Every person I know who has straight hair is like, oh, I wish my hair was curly. And it's like, yep, welcome to society. Like, welcome to no one is happy and everyone is miserable.
I did want to say about, I keep saying Randy, but it's Dennis Quaid. Did you know that was supposed to be Ray Liotta, but he passed away just a couple of months before filming?
I saw that recently. I was looking at something that said that, and I was like, man, I think he would have been amazing in that role.
Yeah. Yes.
I think in a way it's like Dennis Quaid's like conservativeness and all these other things kind of brings a whole other level to that. That's like a weird, like internal commentary. But I do think Ray Liotta would have been just fantastic. I think he would have absolutely killed in that role.
Oh, absolutely. He's an amazing actor. I think I've seen him verge on being ugly before. So Dennis Quaid, who is so beautiful, to push that line, I do feel like it was a happy result for something that obviously was so horrible to have happen. But I was reading that earlier this week, and I was like, oh my God, okay, that would have been good. And then I like that all the other men are no one. They're no one. They barely have lines. Do you really remember them? It's kind of like white hair and a suit.
Totally. Yeah, I think there's really something to be said for sort of the smallness, the sort of like small and intimate with this movie, where, I mean, really there's essentially sort of like 3 people in the cast, if you think about it, like in terms of where we're at. I mean, it's really, it's Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley. Like that's the movie, really. And I think that's fascinating because I feel like now we see so many things where it's like, there's got to be some side plot. There's got to be some other character. There's got to be whatever. And I love that this is simple in the sense of like, well, it's mostly her battling herself. And that's really what it needs to be about. So that's where we're going to focus. And that's what this is. Who would even be sort of the supporting performance here? Because they're both sort of like 50-50 in this. I find it amazing.
Yeah. I guess I want to push Demi Moore ahead a little bit more because she had to do more time in the makeup chair.
Yeah, true.
Just a little bit. Oh man. Yeah. That is a hard call because they both really just acted their nuts off. And it's so nuanced and hard to describe. Like, it's such an internal story. We are battling ourselves. So to have that be visually something outside that we can see, but also internally in the actor's performance, I couldn't articulate how they achieved it so well. And then I was reading about the sound design. Did you hear about the microphones they put inside the actors' ears?
Oh, no, I didn't.
So when they're ADRing and doing certain scenes, they put microphones inside Margaret Qualley and inside Demi Moore's ears to record the sound of like their muffled ear heartbeat. So there are points where it feels like you're hearing a heartbeat. You're feeling inside a body. And what you are is you're literally hearing inside the actress's body while she's giving you that take.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I did notice that a bit especially in the first sort of the birth of Sue scene.
Yes,
You do get this
particularly.
really interesting internal that feels like, when you have headphones that are like not on yet, but they're in your ears or whatever. Like
Yes.
it's a really interesting sort of sonic situation going on there. So yeah, that's really interesting to know that.
Yeah, I assumed that they had just produced that after the fact with Foley artists, but to be like, oh, I'm not sure we've ever recorded that aspect of an actor's performance. So yeah, like we're getting so much intimate acting from Demi Moore. I am wary that it is a horror movie and that the Academy doesn't like horror movies, so we might not see this get the respect it deserves.
I know. I worry about that too. I feel like this is kind of one where it may, because of the sort of message of it, I feel like it may sort of transcend that, but it is tough because I think a lot of people are kind of like, oh, that's that horror movie. Like people who don't really know about it are like, I've heard body horror. I've heard like, it's like an actress and there's body horror, but it's like, no, it's like so much more than that. There's so much meaning to this beyond kind of just like trying to gross you out. Like there's a whole lot of layers to this. So I think like maybe we'll get some sort of acknowledgement for her. But I've been thinking about that too with my critics group. I was like, I want to put her for this. And I'm thankful because I've heard a lot of other people kind of say that too, of like, this is going to be one of my top performances of the year, or this is one that I want to make sure to note. But I worry that people will kind of go, it's a horror movie, because that does tend to happen for sure.
I think she'll undoubtedly get a SAG because the acting is too much. There's too much going on to not nominate that. I worry that it is also a double flag because they didn't like May December. And I feel like the Oscars didn't like May December because it kind of takes a look at the industry and in a not positive way. And so does this. And so the Oscars tends to kind of be like, oh, if you don't like to play the game, then you're not invited.
Yeah, this is very much like, hey, Hollywood, like you're pretty fucked up for women. And I don't know if they want to hear that,
Mm-hmm. That makes me think of the line in it's Seven, where the guy is talking about how if you want people, Kevin Spacey, if you want people to receive a message, you can't just tap them on the shoulder. You need to hit them in the head with a sledgehammer. And that, I feel like the substance was like, heard.
Definitely. Yeah. The like absolute bluntness of this movie to me is one of its hugest strengths, because it's kind of like, you could kind of present this in a very sort of like Lifetime original movie way, this theme, and to be able to do this in a way where it is literally like flashing neon lights of here's the message. And to do that in a way that's so sort of subversive that it becomes really fun at the same time, and it becomes funny at the same time. To me, that is like really threading a needle, because I mean, it's like I said, it's sort of heavy subject matter in terms of like body dysmorphia and all these different things, but to be able to do it in a way where it's literally just like, and by the end she becomes a big fucking monster. Like that is delightful.
Very much so. It makes me, I keep coming back to Terry Gilliam. It makes me think of The Fisher King, which has a heavy message in it. It does hit you over the head with it. It's allegory, but it's like level 1 allegory. Guys, you got this. And it's super absurd and it's super big and super bizarre, but it's really watchable and funny and heartwarming and sad and enjoyable and scary. It's not quite grotesque, but like, I definitely know that there are people for whom that is not their favorite thing. However, if you want to take a look at this movie and complain that it did not end pretty enough, I think you might have missed the message.
Yes. Yeah, I think, too, we always see all this stuff now with like media literacy is in the toilet and nobody, media literacy is so bad. We constantly see that where like those, someone will make a film that clearly says one thing and then everyone will turn around and be like, no, I thought the exact opposite. And you get the sort of like engagement bait posts that are like, did anyone else notice how this happened in this movie? I thought that was messed up. I remember that was a big thing with Dune, where everyone was like, this movie is a total white savior movie. And it was like, oh, no. I think you might have missed this a little bit. Like, this, no. And so I think we get that a lot. And I'd be very curious with this. I think in a way, because it's so blunt, it's so obvious in what it's trying to say. I haven't seen a lot of those hot takes. I'm sure they're out there because there's always hot takes on social media, but I haven't seen any of those people being like, actually the substance is saying the opposite of what it's trying to say. I haven't really seen that. And I think in a way I'm kind of like, does this mean that all movies now need to hit you over the head with a sledgehammer with the message because people are like, inevitably going to be doing this while they're like on their phone, or they want to have some take on threads or something that they can get a bunch of replies to, or
I have seen a few takes that were like, if you're gonna show that much boob, I don't think you're really trying to be feminist anything. All this butts on butts, way to film a feminist movie. And I'd be like, oh, so you left after 10 minutes.
Yeah. Did you watch the rest? Did you kind of tuned out at that point? You said, oh my God, they're like sexualizing Margaret Qualley. And then like, that's it.
Yep. Because people be hitting Letterboxd on their phones in the middle of the movie.
Yeah. Wild.
Yeah, seriously. And it's like so much visuals coming at your face. The saturation is hypersaturated. The sound is hypersaturated. You're hearing inside the actors. Everything is closer by maybe like 10 degrees than normal on like the takes for 1 versus 2 versus medium shot, long shot. It's just so freaking neon that by the time you make it to 2.5 hours, a normal like a neurotypical human being should be exhausted. Most of us are not neurotypical. So you're going to be like, put your phone down, watch.
Yeah. In a way, it's like, it kind of reminds me a little bit of like with The Wolf of Wall Street, where it's that like incredibly fast pace. It's just throwing all this stuff at you. And that's another one where I feel like people miss the point sometimes. Where it's like, I remember after The Wolf of Wall Street came out, there was all of these hot takes of, see, Martin Scorsese's glamorizing, everything that he's doing here. Martin Scorsese's saying he's a hero. I don't think you paid attention to the movie if that's what you gathered from that.
Yeah, and Trainspotting is about how great heroin is.
Yeah, exactly. It's an ad for heroin.
Just lose some weight, have a great time. I would love to talk to some younger women about their experience watching this movie. Because when you're quite young, you can almost feel immortal. Like, that death doesn't come for me. And I wonder if it hits entirely the same if you're, say, 19 or 20.
So true. Yeah, I'd be curious to find out. If you're listening to this, or if you're watching this and you are like 19 or 20 and you watch The Substance and you have an opinion about it, we would like to hear it, because I am really curious about that. Aging millennials and Gen X and boomers and everyone will kind of take this movie one way, but it's true. If you are in that like peak desirable youth, like the demographic right now, I wonder how this hits for you.
Yeah, because I mean, I remember watching I Saw the TV Glow, and there was a lot of discourse about, like, if you're not the demographic for identifying with the trauma in this, it doesn't hit for you. And yet I still feel like there's so many angles to come at Substance. You don't really need to be a woman. You don't need to be in the entertainment industry. Like, I do wonder, though, do you have to be a little old?
That's true. I mean, do you have to be where you can see sort of your expiration date of desirability to be able to really appreciate that what this says about having an expiration date for your desirability?
Or even to just know that this is a real representation of the world. You might be too fresh to the world to have yet had someone say shit like this to you. And you might think that scene where they're saying that to that actress is, oh, it's a little bit much. It's a little bit not very much at all. That is subdued, and it happens every day, all the time. So I wonder if like the outrage is not yet built in enough for people who have not yet been trodden on enough.
That's very possible, I think too, though, there may be some higher relatability, because I do feel like the internet, people are mean. So I think like, even if you
Yes.
are like a gorgeous 19-year-old who's just absolutely perfect, people will say some shit to you online. Like, people will put something in the comments that's incredibly harsh, or people will send you a DM that is mean.
And they have grown up with social media where we didn't. So that could be so, it might have taken me a while to learn, but they might learn sooner. Is it, you know, I would love to see more artists take on this subject matter. I would love to see a young female artist take on this subject matter, like male, non-binary, trans, everybody come at it, because there's still meat on this bone.
Absolutely. Yeah. I hope this sort of opens a door for a lot more movies that are sort of dealing with this theme. I mean, I know like with A Different Man, a lot of people have been like, oh, wow. So A Different Man and The Substance came out, and these are like these two that you can do as a double feature. Or people were, asking Sebastian Stan about, what do you think about The Substance, and these different things. But I think like you said, there is so much meat on this bone. There's a lot to explore here. And I love the idea of exploring it through horror and through body horror. And, this doesn't have to just be a dramatic subject. We can get into this through all sorts of different genres and really explore this in a fascinating way, because there is a lot to discuss here for sure.
Oh my God. The only thing that didn't work for me was I didn't quite understand how she got better at home renovation after she took the substance. Like, she's got an acetylene torch. She's tearing down tiles. She's breaking through a cement wall. Although, first of all, you got a wall you can access from two sides. One is cement and tile, and the other is the back of your closet. Which wall would you break?
Yeah.
So there was because I do, my husband's a contractor, and I do contract work as well. So there's a point where I was like, oh, she know how to do this before? Because she could just be a handyman as she gets older. She doesn't have to worry about dancing in sports suits.
I thought that same thing when she starts like going to town, like tearing a hole in the wall. I was immediately like, I wonder, did she like watch some tutorials for this? Or
and she has the little wheels that and it slides back flawlessly. I have tried, the first time I tried a miter a joint, it doesn't flawless anything. It would have taken her 2 cycles of being different people. Like, it's like a 14-day job.
You take the substance and you tile your entire bathroom. Don't even worry about it.
And to have that complaint is such a small complaint. Like, there was just like a couple seconds there I was like, I guess it makes you good at home repair too.
I feel like that's like the sort of surreal quality of this whole thing, where it's like there's things like, I mean, even the show being the New Year's Eve show. Like, what is it? It's like, it's the New Year's Eve show. It's like, it doesn't really matter what it is. It was very, it's the Catalina wine mixer. What is it? It doesn't matter. It's the New Year's Eve show, the big show.
Well, Sue doesn't even get a last name. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. No one cares.
Exactly.
She's just this thing to consume. You don't care what her last name is.
Totally. There's so much of this where you could get hung up in, well, how does the substance work? Well, what is this? I like in the beginning, like it literally just is like, here they are injecting this thing into an egg, and then the egg splits into 2 eggs. That's how it works. Anyway, here's the movie. It's like, good. We don't need like lore for this,
Yeah, because it's not really about the sci-fi. The sci-fi needs to be consistent enough to build a world around, and it does that. Sure. It's about the inner experience of someone who would choose to do this.
And it succeeds with flying colors in that area for sure for me.
It's almost like a MacGuffin. Like, it's just there. Or a Deus Ex Machina.
Like, what is the substance? It doesn't matter what the substance is. The substance is a means for her to explore this, having 2 selves and your image of yourself and your, it's a thing that makes it where all of this can unfold so that we can see the message in the movie.
Exactly. And when she goes to inject it the first time, I actually had a why don't you YouTube that moment. She just like knows how to tie her own vein off and where to inject it. And I was like, I would YouTube it. It probably came with a video instruction.
Totally. I was like, man, this is really, this is like Apple style instructions where they're literally just like, turn it on and it works. Don't worry about it. There's no booklet that comes with this. You get the things, you do the thing. Don't worry about it.
Couldn't it have been a subcutaneous shot to my upper thigh? Well, I don't know how to do intravenous drugs.
Seriously. Well, yeah, overall, I think, I really enjoyed it. I think you similarly really enjoyed it. This is a movie that like I think both of us would totally recommend. I mean, if you haven't seen it and you've listened to all this, I don't know why you would, but definitely do.
I will say the runtime, as movie runtime, is a little longer than you might expect. So I would suggest watching this as a like afternoon movie versus say turning this on at like 10 o'clock at night, because it's really heavy and I wouldn't like to go to bed right after this.
For sure. This is not one that you want to be like lingering, like, well, just watched a, horrifying situation that deals with body horror and our own perception of ourselves and our dysmorphia. All right, night, night, This is not a like, sweet dreams type of movie.
Yeah. Or you can watch Alien Romulus and be like, thank God I'm not in the space in the future. This one's like, I am going to die and get old, though.
Exactly. You need some distance from this for sure. Like, watch this in the afternoon and then like, make a run to Target, get your laundry done, do other things you need to do.
As they say, touch grass.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Absolutely. Well, KT, will you let people know where they can find you online and all the places? And I will specifically say follow KT on TikTok because I really love your videos, but you are all over the place. Let everyone know where they can follow you.
The good thing about following me anywhere is that you will learn how to follow me otherwheres because there's always that link tree. But do follow me on TikTok at Movie Runtime. I'm so close. I'm like 40 away from 3,000, which is just arbitrary and fun. And I like whole numbers. If you want to follow me on Instagram, though, if you put in KT or if you put in Movie Runtime, you'd still get me. But the actual handle is Little Deadly Creature. And I know that that's not brand cohesive. I just don't care. I love that.
Exactly.
That's my handle. Every Tuesday and for the month of October, also on Fridays and sometimes on Wednesdays, because we couldn't decide to do 4 vampire movies. We wanted to do like 9. So if you're following Movie Night Extravaganza, you can catch me on those episodes. We did Nosferatu, we did Dracula, we did, oh God. I can't even remember. The Hunger was the last one that we did. And we're just about to do What We Do in the Shadows.
Nice.
Live, you can come and join in the chat. We throw people's comments up while we're talking. It's a real good time. And, all vampire themed all month. And even speaking of Nosferatu, if you're in the Western Massachusetts area in East Hampton on the 27th at New City Brewery, I am doing a live showing of Nosferatu. It'll start with an hour of local films. You'll get to see my 5-minute comedy horror that I just finished, along with 3 other ones. And then we're going to do a little quick talk where I'll explain the history behind Nosferatu, kind of set it up for people, and then we'll air it.
Awesome. So cool.
That's part of the East Hampton Film Festival. I do need to say that, though. The people running that are the East Hampton Film Festival.
Well, I will put links in the description to your socials, to all the things. I highly encourage everybody to check you out because I love your content. I love the stuff you make. And I love chatting with you. So I'm sure we will probably do this again.
Anytime, man. This is so easy. This is just like chat with a friend.
Yeah, for real. It's like, oh my God, I love this movie. It's like, I loved it too. And then like, that's what we do.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to everybody who watched or listened to this. If you like it, leave a review, leave a comment, leave a like, do all the social things. And we will catch you in the next one.